This is TWiT.
Fires continue in Canada. Fires just all over, of course. Yellowknife has been evacuated, 20,000 people in the capital. Heritage minister says it's all Meta's fault. You remember C-18 passed in the Canadian Parliament, which required that Google and Meta pay news publishers for links back to their sites. So if you are on Facebook and you put a link to the Toronto Globe and Mail, you'd have to pay for that. Facebook would have to pay for that, even though it's sending traffic back to the Toronto Globe and Mail.
Unbelievable.
To which Google and Facebook said, see ya. So now, without news links, by the way, Facebook pointed out only about 3% of our traffic is these news links. People don't get their news on Facebook. It's not a huge deal.
And by the way, nothing stops the news organization from typing into a post, Yellowknife is being evacuated, and putting the actual information there. This is about the links only.
And there are plenty of other places to get your news. But of course, so people may say when they first hear this, oh, shame on you, Meta, because you're endangering people in Yellowknife because Facebook blocks those links. But I say shame on you, Canada, and the Canadian government, because this is a very cynical ploy to get pressure Facebook to come back. Exactly. Canada's heritage minister redoubled her calls for Meta to end its ban on Canadian news content. This is from the Canadian
Trudeau
Press
came
News.
into
And now the Prime Minister weighs in as well. Dudes, you do this, you chase away.
So
you've been warned.
So Facebook was saying it was roughly 2 or 3% from in their analytics that they saw was news stuff.
Yeah, for news links.
What are the news organizations seeing? What are the folks in Canada seeing in their analytics? Are they seeing it as 80% of their traffic is coming from
Jeff
from
LG, we quoted him a few weeks ago from Village Media in Canada, who's a real innovator in Canada. He said between Google and Facebook together, it's about 50% of his traffic. People start there and it's links. And of course, it's not just links. It's the news organizations themselves linking to stuff, but it's also readers linking to stuff, which you want. And they're cutting off their nose despite their face.
Yeah.
Pascal Saint-Onge, which weirdly is the heritage minister in charge of this, says this is this news block is putting people's lives at risk. But this guy named Jeff Jarvis, a journalism professor at the City University of
some loudmouth American
University of Newark, tells the Canadian Press News.ca there is some onus on the Canadian government to back down. You said to look for the reckless roots of this problem. Nice to sneak in some alliteration. I like that.
A little alliteration.
It never hurts. The heritage minister should look in the mirror. He says the bill is what's reckless, not Facebook. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, there's just two things about it. One is the abdication of responsibility by the government, as if it's Mark Zuckerberg's mission to safeguard the health and safety of the Canadian people rather than the Canadian government. Number one. Number two, by saying that the Meta removal of news links endangers lives, essentially what he's saying is that Meta providing the free service of linking to news in normal times was life-saving. And so they're the ones who chased Meta away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just ridiculous.
Furthermore, Facebook has turned on their safety check feature, which is a great public service that they offer, where people can go to their Facebook page and say, I'm all right, I'm okay, I got evacuated. Cool. Apparently, that 20,000 people have been flown. I was just talking to Richard Campbell on Windows Weekly, he's in Coquitlam, he's in BC. He said that 20,000 people have been flown from Yellowknife down to British Columbia, hundreds of flights to get them out. But they can use Meta to say, oh yeah, I got evacuated, I'm in BC, I'm okay.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
they can post any
free
service they want in a post.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the publishers said, how dare you link to us? And now they say, how dare you not link to us?
Yeah, this is the problem with this, yeah.
And it's been interesting because I did a CBC interview. I did the Canadian press interview. I did a couple radio interviews because I'm the loudmouth American now on this topic. And I thought I would get a lot of pushback from the interviewers. And actually, I haven't. They kind of get it.
Don't sell yourself.
Well, there's still
loudmouth American on every topic, but no. But I saw the interview you did. It was exactly right. My curiosity is around public opinion in Canada. What do the Canadians think? Who are the Canadians blaming for this problem? Are they siding with the government, or they agree that the?
I think it's so arcane and inside cricket. This thing. Inside hockey, I should say.
Hockey.
That I doubt that there's much public opinion.
I'll tell you exactly
what happens. People who are affected are the First Nations in
that's sad.
Northwest Territories.
Yeah.
Well, you were going to say something. You were saying
I think what it really comes down to, and this is often the case in our polarized world, is which you hate worse, government or Facebook? And for the people who say, yeah, see, Facebook sucks, this is more proof. And for people who say, yeah, government sucks, this is more proof. And it has nothing to do with the facts of the matter.
The thing about this is there could be one way negotiation. Or another. I'm sorry, Ant.
No, I'm just saying it's just stirring an uproar one way or another. You mentioned it seemed like the people that were interviewing you were fair on this. Should they have been otherwise? Isn't it their job to just try to report the facts and get the information?
I love you, Ant.
I mean, no, I'm saying that's the problem I have with news today. Is they're not supposed to come out and have their slant one way or another when it comes to a matter of actual facts. Like right now, our folks cannot put this information in Facebook because Facebook has blocked it, period. Next sentence, Facebook blocked it because our government wanted to charge them for putting this in there, period. Those are the facts. It shouldn't have to have some type of political slant one way or another.
You're absolutely right. And the other piece of this, too, in terms of who's reasonable or not, is that Facebook and Google, but especially Google, have made clear they'll negotiate. Google said that
they did in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, and they short-circuited the law there. It didn't ever take effect. And in Canada, they've said, listen, you got to have a cap on this. You can't have some unlimited amount of money.
Why?
You got to have a fair way to distribute the money.
Okay.
Who's deciding this? You got to guarantee the money is going to journalists. Because in this case, the major newspaper chain in Canada is owned by a hedge fund, an American hedge fund.
Oh,
and the money is fungible, and it's going to go to their bottom line. But the way the law was written and then passed left no wiggle room at all for negotiation. So now the government's stuck. They might try to, in the regulation, do things like put a cap on and stuff like that. But here's what I think is interesting, my friends. I think Google will end up negotiating something with them. They'll figure it out and they get Google. But Facebook, I think that Facebook is going to say, you know what? Never mind. We don't want any news there. You know what? We don't want any news anywhere. It's a pain.
It's a pain
for controversial.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for this excuse. Thank you very much, Canada. We'll blame you for the whole world having fewer links to news, which does affect the news ecosystem. It does affect the citizenry. It's not good. But I don't blame Facebook at this point for saying, I
was wondering how long it would take for them to backtrack on this now that this tragedy has happened. And
they've held firm.
Is this something that we'll see fixed at the end of the year?
Now, it hasn't fully become law, right?
It's been signed into law. It hasn't hit the date yet.
Okay.
That's all.
So they did
Facebook
this
said we're doing it.
kind of proactively, knowing that they were at some point going to have to do this. Mike Masnick's headline, Canadian media organization said that Meta linking to news was anti-competitive. Now they say not linking to news is anti-competitive. Mike writes, this is just so painfully obnoxious. The legacy news media spurred on by a welfare system that pretend free market supporter Rupert Murdoch dreamed up and convinced governments to implement, whereby the government would force internet companies, which had innovated and created new business models that worked, to suddenly be required to pay for sending traffic to legacy news media organizations, which failed to innovate. It's extreme corporate welfare egged on by a guy who pretends to be against all kinds of welfare. And as a true liberal, I will ad that welfare in this country is always for the rich, not for the poor.
Yep.
We don't want poor people to get any welfare. We don't want any subsidies for poor people. But, oh, by the way.
Yeah, can I have some, please? Thanks. Yeah. Can you bail me out? Thanks.
Canada, the other point that Jeff made, the other point that Jeff made that I thought was right on, of course, is that we have norms about how the internet works. You have hyperlinks that link to other content, and nobody's paying anybody for those links. And that's the way it's supposed to work. And I was casting about in my mind for an analogy. And one analogy would be from the media. So let's say, for example, you have a newspaper that has a restaurant review section. They recommend a restaurant. There's like, oh, their chicken a la king is fantastic. You should go there. Here's the address. Should they have to pay the restaurant for directing people to that restaurant and providing the address of that restaurant and showing pictures of the restaurant and showing pictures of the food and all that kind of stuff?
You know what shocks me, Mike?
Of course not. The other way around.
What shocks me here, wait a second here. What shocks me here, Mike, I just got to get this in here, is that in your brain where you eat the most phenomenal food all the time, all around the world, your brain struggles to pick an example of food, and you pick chicken a la king?
Well,
where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's been in Morocco too long. He misses good old American food.
I just try to think about what Canadians eat. I don't know what they eat.
Campbell's mushroom soup.
Trying to relate to us peasants.
So Michael Geist, if you want the Canadian point of view, he is wonderful. He's been lobbying against C-18 since day one. He's Canadian Research Chair in Internet and E-commerce Law at the University of Ottawa, a member of the Center for Law, Technology, and Society. He writes on his blog, and this is actually a very good point. This is from the Canadian point of view. The rhetoric about Bill C-18 has escalated in recent days in light of the awful wildfires in the Northwest Territories and British Columbia. In my view, again, this is Michael Geist, the issues associated with these tragic events have little to do with Meta blocking news links, and the attempt to bring it into the conversation is a transparent attempt to score political points. The reality is Meta was asked about just this scenario at committee and made it clear that it would not block any non-news outlet links. This is precisely what's been happening. In other words, they told everybody. And the government's legislative choices
updates all they want.
Should be the starting point for understanding why compliance with the law involves blocking a very broad range of news links that extend even beyond those sources that are defined as eligible news outlets. In other words, this is all about political posturing. What a surprise. And maybe deflecting some responsibility. The connectivity with some Northwest Territory communities completely taken offline for days is somehow never mentioned, says Geist. The law has yet to take effect. There is room to address their concerns in the regulation-making process. That's what the government and supporters of Bill C-18 are saying. He says both of these claims are incredibly deceptive, relying on the assumption most won't bother to read the actual legislation. If they did, they would see, 1, the law has received royal assent and can take effect any time. And 2, the regulation-making process addresses only a small subset of Bill C-18 issues. With most of the core issues, they're done. They're finalized. In other words, the time to shape the law and address many of the key concerns was before the government repeatedly cut off debate in order to ensure that it received royal assent before the summer break. So even this Canadian media, Canadian news journal interview that you did, even there, the Canadian CPN, Canadian Press News, is that like a news service?
It's the AP of Canada.
The AP of Canada. Even then, even in this article, they said Bill C-18 is not in effect yet. Says St. Ange. This means Meta is not yet on the hook to pay for any news sites, so why did they turn it off?
Right.
Makes but you know what? This the reason I bring this up, it's really got much more to do. It's not just Canada. This is in general the attitude towards big tech. That big tech is at fault. Whatever goes wrong, it's big tech's fault. And this is an easy
and we need to rein in the big tech companies.
Yeah, right? But it's an easy whipping boy for the flaws, the faults of the government.
Yes.
Let's blame big tech
as a whole.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here. In case you hadn't heard, Home Theater Geeks is back. Each week, I bring you the latest audio-video news, tips and tricks to get the most out of your AV system, product reviews, and more. You can enjoy Home Theater Geeks only if you're a member of Club TWiT, which costs $7 a month. Or you can subscribe to Home Theater Geeks by itself for only $2.99 a month. I hope you'll join me for a weekly dose of home theater geekitude.